Hi everyone, my name is Victoria Hernandez and welcome to my channel. I live to inspire mental health. If you're not already subscribed to my channel, please subscribe. I post weekly videos about mental health and my experience with bipolar disorder. Before we get to the video, I wanted to ask you guys how you guys found my channel. If you guys could comment that down below, it would really help me for something that I've been working on. So with that, this week's video is going to be about how to stop feeling like you have a mental illness. So I want to talk about this because I used to feel like I woke up every single morning and had a mental illness, and what that meant for me at that moment was that my life was doomed. I was gonna get nowhere. I had a bunch of obstacles. I felt sorry for myself sometimes, and it was kind of like this whole like gloomy feeling. Of course, when you're in that mental state, when you've just been diagnosed, all you can really think about is your mental illness and how it impacts your life, how it's impacted it in the past. Like, for example, I would think of all the things that I had gone through when I was like little and the things that had happened and how they made sense now. So literally all that I could think about, and every time something went wrong, I was like, it's because I have a mental illness. So how do you change that? Well, today, I don't even think about me having mental illness. Of course, I talk about these things, I talk about my experience and how I've dealt with it and how I've grown and become better. But whenever I talk about my story, I am not feeling hurt. I am not feeling attached to those words because I've been able to let that go. And I can tell my story in a positive way, with a positive tone, and go on with my life, chasing my dreams and doing everything I can without letting this impair my way to get to where I want to be. So I think the first step is definitely accepting it. So there is a lot of stigma surrounding mental illnesses. I mean, the word illness is definitely scary, so there's like, that's probably why, right? What people think about it, people think that they're crazy, that they can't do anything. People have a lot of versions in their heads of what somebody who has mental illness looks like. So then that's where you have to accept it and understand that you are not your mental illness. You are not your disorder. So for example, I am not bipolar. I have bipolar disorder. It is a part of my life, but it is not who I am, and it's not going to define who I am, in the sense of I am not going to let it be a negative force in my life, but rather a positive one. So basically what that means is letting go of what people say, what people think, and understanding that having a mental illness, that is just a name for some symptoms. You're the same person you were before. You're the same person that has accomplished the things that you've accomplished in life, and you can continue to do so. So waking up each morning, you have to realize that your life won't always be this way. Your life is not always going to be about, feeling negative and being sad and all that kind of stuff. It actually goes beyond that. If you're being treated by a psychiatrist, if you're going to a psychologist, and you're working on your mental health overall, eventually these things aren't going to be obstacles in your life anymore. And it is a process, and it is a long process. It's not like, oh, I'm going to therapy or I'm taking medications and I'm going to be fine tomorrow. It's not that easy. It took me several years to get to where I am today. And as I said before, it's looked at as a negative thing, but your experiences are your experiences. They make you who you are, and everybody struggles with something in life. Nobody gets a free pass on life. Everybody goes through something, and it might just be that it's not a mental illness, or it might be that it is a mental illness. And so it's like, it's no different than a physical illness or some other type of illness, because yes, mentally, honestly, it's so hard. Of course it is. But what I'm trying to say here is that everybody goes through things in life, and just because yours has a mental in front of illness has mental in front of illness, does not mean that you are doomed for life or you are less than anybody else and that you're the only one that's suffering in the world, because it's definitely not it. So once you start to look at it in a positive way, once you start to ask yourself, why do I have this? Why am I going through this? And how can it serve me as a positive force for the rest of my life? That's when you start to heal. when you start to talk about it, right? When you get therapy and you speak about your experiences, your lives, and that is the difficult topic to talk about, but it is a way of healing. So eventually you're going to start feeling better and better. And at first you're going to tell your story whenever you open up to somebody, because you do meet people in the world as you go through life, and you have to open up sometimes at different stages in your life. So at first it might really hurt. I remember at first when I was telling my friends what I had this huge weight over me, like this huge importance, like I have a mental illness, I have bipolar disorder, and it was all that I could think about. I told my story in a very attached way. It still hurt. I still cried when I told my story. I don't cry anymore. I think even my first video I got teary-eyed when I was telling my story and everything that I went through, because it was hard. But as time went on, I started to heal. I started to feel better. I looked forward to the future. I did not let the negative aspect of my mental illness define me, but rather I used it as my biggest force. I'm making these videos which make me feel even better, which is helping other people. So it starts by changing your perspective around it, and that's by doing those like little changes, like talking about it, opening up, looking at it in a different perspective, kind of shifting how you approach life as with your mental illness. Because trust me, you don't have to, like, just because you have a mental illness does not mean that you cannot be successful in life. It does not mean that you can't be a parent. It does not mean that you can't, be happy. It's not always easy. Everybody is different. Some cases are worse than others, of course. But I am a firm believer that there's so many ways to cure yourself, and one of the first ways is by talking about it. And that's honestly, the things that I've just talked about are the ways that I stopped feeling like I had an illness, but rather I started feeling like I had a superpower, and that I could help the world with it. So with that, I hope you liked this video. If you did, please like and comment, and don't forget to subscribe. And always remember that there's a light at the end of the tunnel, and a bad day does not mean a bad life.